Welcome back to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. The archives and load up some other talks that I've got of these Bob Earll cassettes. I've had them sitting on a hard drive for some time now. I've decided to share them with you all. Let me know what you think. Some people loved Bob. Some people hated Bob. Bob was Bob, but he talked all over the world. I mean, he's from Los Angeles, Beverly Hills area, and did other things. I think he was a writer. Just click down below, like or subscribe, or both, like and subscribe. Just click down below, like and subscribe on my channel. It helps me out. Just a little click for you, doesn't cost you anything, and I'm bringing you some Bob Earll. And have a good day if you want to.
We'll see about that.
Could you give me a name once?
For the tape, sure. I'm Bob Earll, drug addict and alcoholic.
Hi, Bob.
And we're going to try and stand. Well, I may decide to sit down, which is my privilege. I don't know how to tell you that one on an early Sunday morning, but the speaker will do what he goddamn well pleases.
Yeah.
That comes with a little time on the program. Fuck the group. No, the reason I question standing is I had knee surgery last Friday, so I'm just kind of like, we'll see how well it goes here. Sunday morning seems to be a natural time to talk about God, doesn't it? Or money, one of the two. We're on top of the dough, and we're here on a Sunday morning meeting. And of course, we all know that God and money are synonymous.
God, what a great guy. He was so funny.
If your spiritual program is in true form, then you don't have any money problems today. So you can take that one home. I'm flat fucking broke at the moment, so I know mine needs to be worked on. No, it's serious. I feel like I'm in a good humor. What the hell? Let's talk about a little of that. I have come over 21 and a half, almost 22 years of sobriety. I believe in an all-powerful, all-loving, all-giving, all-forgiving, ever-present God. There is no more, no less. If you kid yourself that there is, it's bullshit. You're wasting your time and anybody else's time that you're talking to on the phone. That is it. There is but one power. There's only one power. There isn't good and evil. You don't even have to worry about evil. There is but good. The only other interference you might run into in your sobriety will be between your ears, and it'll be your mind. This will be busy interpreting things for you throughout your sobriety. It is what decides what is good and bad. It is what it decides whether you should go left or right. It is what decides whether or not you should take this risk or stay on this job or chance it with this relationship or make this investment or not. And in a minute you get these intuitions to do things, the mind will usually stop you. I find that most people don't have the self-esteem and the spiritual trust required to follow their instincts. And so because we don't follow our instincts, our intuition, we wind up spending most of our sober lives in a box, albeit a better box than the one we got here in, and albeit a better box than the one that we were headed for, it still is a box. So I guess what the thing is that you can draw your own line here in sobriety. They designed a rather interesting program, these old boys, when they put this sucker together almost 50 years ago. And they gave us literally the opportunity to derive from it what we want. And they gave us the permission that if there isn't enough tools here to help us because of our own specific problems, to go avail ourselves of the other tools, to go get psychiatry, to go get psychology, to go back to your church, to work with ministers. If you're more happy taking your inventory with a priest or a minister, then take it there. They were very, very wise men for their times when they put this book together. Unfortunately, over the years, as we've gone along in AA, what you hear at meetings is 90% bullshit and 10% fact. The 10% fact is read, and the rest is conjecture. And the rest you hear based on, I've heard, there's a speaker running around AA who I just would love to strangle if I could, if my program allowed me to, but it doesn't. And at 30-some years of sobriety, he's convinced that the one problem that people have in later sobriety is untreated alcoholism. And that's why at 15 years, 7 years, 8 years, they're so miserable. It's because they haven't really taken a real inventory. And if they'll just go to Chicago, where he happens to be located, with him and his group, they'll show them how to take a real inventory. Well, the minute any son of a bitch starts telling me his way is the only way, you know, I want to first make sure I still got my wallet, you know. And secondly, I want to look in his eyes. I want to get as close to him as I can, as quick as I can. And I want to look in his eyes because I want to see what's going on in somebody that's so locked in to this is the way. Because our founders weren't locked into this is the way. And I think that by the nature of our disease of alcoholism, I know one of my single biggest problems next to thinking and sobriety was no self-esteem. I didn't have any self-esteem. Didn't matter how well I worked the steps, didn't matter how good the inventories were I wrote, didn't matter how many people I took to meetings, it didn't matter how many times I was secretary, it didn't matter how many times I had panels, how many institutions I had these panels. None of this was unimportant because I would do all of this stuff. Everything I could, I would get a job and show up and get my paycheck, and I would do all these things, and yet I still didn't feel good. You know, but you go in AA meetings, and because you're now a really active AA and you sponsor more people than names you can remember, and people say, "How are you?" You say, "Hey, I'm doing really good, man. Everything's terrific." You know, a little voice inside says, "You're really a turd." You know? And you're lucky to be goddamn alive, and you're not really going to have much, you know, so be grateful for what you got. But you push that voice aside and you try to ignore it. Well, I've discovered here, at least for me in AA, for some people who are close to me, because we talk about this stuff a lot, that first of all, there's an immense number of us that are the adult children of alcoholics. We had alcoholic parents, all right? This is just my opinion. I'm only voting my opinion. You can have your own. I believe that already sets us apart from the alcoholic who just wanders here drunk from a normal set of mom and dad and tries to clean up his act with the basic 12 steps and the principles of AA. And I'll tell you why I feel that way. Well, the reason I feel that way personally is that 17 years clean and sober, I was unhappy, miserable. I had done it all. I mean, all that this program had asked of me hundreds of times, thousands of times. And I still felt like worthless. I still sometimes would have to sit in a restaurant and eat what I didn't order, you know, because I couldn't send it back because I didn't want to create a scene. You know, God forbid I should have what, you know, is rightfully mine or I'm paying for. You know, I learned as a child, shut the fuck up, you know, be quiet, don't make noise. So I didn't have enough self-esteem to express myself, although, and in an AA meeting I would. So I was literally living two lives. I was living my AA life and I was living my life in the outside world. Well, in AA, I had grown to a certain amount of recognition. You know, I mean, people knew who I was, and so I had a sense of I could put my chest out a little bit and say, "Ah, rah, 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 rah," you know, and be really authoritative. And then you take me down the street and stick me in a restaurant. I was like, "Would it be possible if I could have people?" You know. So I'm living two lives, and the reason I had to live two lives is because I had taken this program, in my opinion, and the opinion of the people that were close to me at the time that I made a decision, as far as you could take it. I had taken the AA program as far as you could take it. I had taken it for 17 years. I had been free from all drugs and free from all alcohol. That's what this program is designed to do. Keep me free from drugs and alcohol. It kept me free from drugs and alcohol, and it set me back out there in the world. It restored me to life. I was employable, I was responsible, I was reasonably honest, and I was not a bad guy to be around. I mean, for the most part, it had done what it said it would do. But the problem is that there is a focus, and you come into AA and the focus is immediately put on you. Which, as it should be in the beginning. I feel, you know, we get in here and we do have a wreckage of our past. Our behavior has harmed us and it has harmed others, and we got to acknowledge that. That's a very hard thing for the alcoholic to do. Like the one guy took the cake, so he thought everybody and everything was his problem, except, you know, his drinking. And here he found out his drinking was his problem. Okay, now he's finding out that there's things behind the drinking. Great, all that's true. That's how the program works. But you spend years around here, or I spent years around here, and the focus was, Well, you take a continued daily inventory, right? So at night I finish up my day, and how do I finish up my day? I finish up my day focusing on me from the standpoint of, well, who did I hurt today? You know? Who did I badmouth today, or who did I offend, or who did I ignore, or who should I have spent more time with, or who should I have this, or who should I have that? So by the time I'm ready to pray to God for some success and abundance, I already feel like a turd again, because I've gone through this. It's like I've been sober all these years, I'm still an asshole, right? You know, I still spent the whole day, I was unkind to him and unkind to her and ignored him and lied to him and, you know, cheated there, but I didn't mean to, and I did correct it. Well, but you did it first. And if your mind is like my mind, it's always there to keep you down. You know, it will never be supportive or giving or loving to you. These voices will always only tell you how you'll never make it. You will fail. Your weight is wrong. Your height is wrong. Your hair color is wrong. The shape of your body is wrong. Your intellect is wrong. Basically, you're wrong. And so why don't you just give up? This is an ongoing conversation that it'll have with you daily. Well, if you're working a program and the focus is already that, you know, the focus is already, who did I shoot? Who did I commit adultery on? Who did I steal from? Who did I commit adultery with? Who this? You know, I'm always looking at me and what's wrong with me. Now I turn to God. An interesting thing happens, because when I was 5 years clean and sober, out of total desperation, complete pain, I surrendered. I let go like I have never let go in my life, screaming at the top of the lungs, if there was no God, I was going to have to die. I mean, I was 5 years sober and I wanted to die. Didn't want to kill myself. That would have been, I say it, and I don't mean this as a joke, and people have heard me say it before. The thought of taking my own life would have been a step up in the depression. Just that I would have been physically willing to kill myself would have put me in a better place than I was in, because I just wanted to sit on this bed 5 years sober and die. And so I let it go. I let it go with out of all the desperation in the world, and God just quietly moved in, took over, broke my back the next day on the job, which is not a bad thing, see, because from this spiritual surrender, one of the things I learned was quit interpreting. Stop letting the mind get in there and interpret good and bad. There's a wonderful story about, and I'll tell it because it really is, it's probably the, yeah, sure, because we do it around here a lot. There's a marvelous story about a guy, a farmer in a small country, and outside a village in a very small country in Europe somewhere, and he's got this great white horse, this magnificent white horse. And the king of the country comes by and says, I want to buy your white horse. How much do you want? And the farmer says, I can't sell him to you. Hell, he's a friend, you know. I mean, he's just like one of the family. I can't sell the horse. I'd love to, but I can't. So the king goes away, and that night the horse runs off, disappears. And all the villagers run out to this little farmer, and they say, oh, God, how terrible. Your horse ran off. You should have sold him to the king. Just think, you would have had a lot of money, and now he's gone, and it's the worst possible thing that could have happened to you. You have no horse anymore. What are you going to do? And the old farmer just looks at all these people who are so concerned and said, well, I don't know that it's a terrible thing, but I do know the horse is gone. And he let it go at that. And about 3 days later, the white horse comes back. And with him, he brings a half a dozen other horses, right? Now the villagers all rush out and say, oh, God, you were right. It wasn't a bad thing that your horse ran off. It was a wonderful thing, because now he's brought all these other horses back, and you can get all these other horses. You can break them and sell them and get a lot more money than you would have got for the white horse. It's a terrific thing. He has done this. And the old farmer looks at all these excited villagers and said, I don't know that it's a terrific thing, but I do know the white horse is back, and he's brought 6 more with him, you know? Then his son, a couple of days later, his son is on back of one of these horses trying to break them so the horses can be ridden, you know, and be sold, and he's thrown off the horse and his legs are broken. Now again, the villagers rush out to this poor old farmer and they say, oh my God, you were right. It isn't a good thing he brought all the horses back with him. It's a terrible thing he brought the horses back. Now your only son has both his legs broken. This is a horrible, horrible thing. And the old farmer looks at him with patience one more time, and he says, I don't know that it is a horrible thing that my son has got his legs broken, but I do know that my son has got his legs broken. And they go away again. Well, during this period of time, this poor little tiny country has been thrown into a war with a nation much larger than theirs. And they're coming through, the army's coming through the countryside, and they're taking all the available young men and sending them to the front, and it is certain death because they are so overpowered. And they come to the farmer's place, and of course his son has both his legs broken, and they can't take him to the front, where he would surely die, and they go on their way. And one more time, the villagers come running back out, and they say, oh, you're right, it's not a bad thing he had his legs broken. It's a great thing he had his legs broken, because now he doesn't have to go to the front and die. And the villager quietly and patiently, the farmer quietly and patiently looks at him and says, I do not know whether or not it's a bad thing he does not have to go to the front and die. I just know he doesn't have to go to the front and die. And this story goes on and on and on and on. And we hear it in AA all the time. If I am unwilling to interpret what has just transpired in my life, I can get a whole meeting to interpret it for me. You know?
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
Oh, you just lost your job? Jesus, how terrible. You know? And you might be sitting there feeling relieved. Like, so glad it's over. And now people have convinced you that this is a horrible thing. And my own personal belief for me when it comes to interpreting God's will is, first of all, I believe that what I've had to get to is my intuition. I believe that God speaks to you through your intuition. I believe it's very hard for us to get to our intuition because it's cluttered with a lot of shit. There's a lot of stuff on top of it. First, there's all of the alcoholism. It's all the character defects and shortcomings that go with our being an alcoholic. But once all those are out of the way, if you are like an adult child of an alcoholic, or you were maybe an abused child, or maybe you were molested or possibly raped as a girl or as a child or as a boy, it doesn't matter, in an institutional setting, if you have been beset by some of these terrible things, you got another set of problems. And the thing I discovered about these problems is that it requires a change in the focus. That at some point in my sobriety, unfortunately for me, I waited 17 years, I had to turn the focus around. I had to stop looking at Bob Earll. What had Bob Earll done to them today? What had Bob Earll said wrong today? What had Bob Earll, which illegal left turn did he make today? You know, which U-turn did he make today? Which goddamn non-parking zone did he park in today? And he shouldn't if he's a child of God, you know. He should do better than that. So I had to reach a point out of total desperation where it became necessary for me to change the focus. What happened to me is I went into therapy because it was suggested to me to go into therapy. And have been in it now for almost 5 years. Well, I'm on a little hiatus right now, which is kind of nice. Just a break, like spring vacation. You know, I've passed my grades and I can just bounce around for a while without endangering myself or others. So it's like, but the thing that happened in the in this act is, and the same thing that they're doing in ACA, and I'm like, if anybody likes to wager money, I'm convinced, you know, you name a figure and I will bet you today that the adult children of alcoholics in 10 years will be the same size as AA. Their membership will be as big as ours. And the reason their membership will be as big as ours is the need is that great. And it will grow like wildfire as soon as it gets untracked and really gets going completely. Because a lot of us have got to change the focus. A lot of us were children of alcoholics. And a lot of us grew up in an unnatural home, in an unnatural setting. And we were beaten and we were ignored and we were left tied up and we were burned as punishment. And the girls were molested and raped. And there's terror. If you could listen, if anybody was allowed in AA to tell what the fuck happened to them, you would sit in meetings and die. You would cry until you hurt so bad you would probably stay awake all night from the pains in your stomach. But we're not allowed that because the focus of this program is what it should be. It's what I did. It's what my character defects are as an alcoholic. It's what my shortcomings are as an alcoholic. It's how this part of the disease is done. Okay, I'm 21 years sober. You know what? I'm done with this shit, guys. I'm done. I have no desire to drink. I have no desire to get loaded. I just finished having to take awesomely powerful pain medication for my leg, and I'm not the least bit interested in it and don't want any more, and I'm delighted that, you know, it's over. I have no interest in any of that crap. None of it. I'm through with that, but my problem is I don't have any self-esteem. My problem is I still don't have enough self-esteem to be spontaneous enough to follow what I know is the right path with God. Now, what I believe is the right path with God is go out the door, start moving, and when you hit a wall, turn left. Okay? Just turn left. Don't wonder if it's a good wall or a bad wall. You know, don't wonder if it's a big thick wall or a little thin one you can push over, you know. Just turn left. We don't do that. We get out the door and we start moving, and it's highly possible with all the machinations we got going on around us that we may hit the wrong wall. You know, we may just go straight out the door and go, bang, you know. And the alcoholic, and it's been your experience, I'm sure, and it's been mine, and it's of all the people I know who are friends of mine, there they are at the wall. They hit the wall and they stay at the wall. 3 years later, they're still taking birthday cakes and they're still at the wall, you know. How are things? Well, not bad, you know. It's not exactly what I had in mind, you know. Not a lot of distraction here, you know. People aren't putting too much pressure on me. I'm a little sick at my stomach a lot. Think about dying occasionally. But it's not bad, you know. So we won't turn left. Why? Because we were afraid. Well, that brings up an interesting thing. I was watching some late night show of intellectuals discussing intellectual topics the other night, and they were talking about children and fear. And they said a child is born with two fears. Fear of falling and fear of loud noises. Isn't it interesting the shouting that so many of us were subjected to as children, yelling and screaming? We can't stand it today. I mean, it's like any loud noise or loud arguments will just send most of us into utter panic inside. So the minute anybody gets loud with us, we have completely lost the ability to stand up for our own rights or what we believe in, because they have so intimidated us with volume. Well, if loud noises and falling are the only two things that I was afraid of at birth, what happened? You know, why can't I take chances? Why can't I change careers? Why can't I move to another state? Why can't I try another country on? Why can't I try out living experiences? Why can't I take enough time to take care of myself? I mean, I'm so thrilled to be at a non-smoking meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I had an experience recently where I took a couple of travelers to some AA meetings. These are guys who have never smoked, never drank, never eaten sugar, never had a candy bar, never had a Diet Cola, never have tasted drugs or alcohol of any kind, have never eaten meat of any kind, have never eaten sugar. They've been raised from infancy only as pure vegetarians. And I took them to AA meetings and I let them watch us, and it's like, you know, they weren't impressed. You know, they were impressed that we had had a killing disease lifted from us. They were impressed that by the grace of God, they could see what was going on here. They were overwhelmingly impressed that by the grace of God, we had this disease which will kill us lifted. What they could not understand is, once having that lifted, why we insisted on continuing to sit and destroy ourselves. Why we continued to insist to smoke cigarettes by the carton, drink coffee by the barrel, eat sugar by the pound. They said, as far as we can tell, nobody sleeps. And beyond nobody sleeping, they said, nobody breathes. You can sit in a meeting and they say, nobody breathes. Has anybody ever taught them that you can breathe deeper than here? Because they all run on a level of high anxiety, because this is as deep as their breathing goes. Someone should teach them they can breathe all the way into the groin and out. And these guys actually upset people at meetings that I took them to by their breathing. I mean, they made the people next to him nervous because they were... They thought they were exasperated, right? What's he pissed off about? What's wrong with him? You know, the guy's just trying to do a little breathing and stay healthy. So I believe that in order to change this focus, for a lot of us, it's the only way we're going to start taking care of ourselves. Because there's no excuse for it. We have been given another shot at life, and it's like, we don't take it. We stop at the wall instead of turning left and saying, okay, man, I'm going to give up the smoking. And I'm going to give up the junk food, and I'm going to exercise for myself. I swear that if the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, if the same guys, if Bill, Bob, and the other 98 men who threw it together 50 years ago, or almost 50 years ago next year, well, they were busy working on it 50 years ago now. If the same group of men were to find AA today, brand new, it had never been found before, I'll bet you anything that non-smoking, therapy, physical exercise, and proper diet would all be integral parts of this program. Absolutely. They were so far ahead of their time when they put this thing together. If all that had been going on, it would have all been in this program. And the only reason I don't take advantage of it for me is because my self-esteem is so low. And the only reason my self-esteem is so low is I was raised in a household that sucked. Right? By people that shouldn't have had children. Great, they did the best job they could do, okay? God bless them, you know. The other side of that picture, which is critical for me to look at if I'm going to have any kind of life at all, they may have done the best job they could do. The job they did was criminal, okay? That's the truth. And if I can look at that, I find out I'm okay. And if I can find out I'm okay, I start to take care of myself. And I think I'm 1 minute past the time that, oh, we get the money now, right? We now want the money, the seventh tradition.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. changes. You can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.